Hello, I am refuting Kelsey's statement, which is that anthropogenic global warming, or global warming which is caused by human activity, is causing significant damage to the environment. She argues this by arguing that human activity is directly worsening global warming, that scientific research shows that global warming is taking place, and that global warming is causing noticeable physical changes on Earth. However, all of these three claims include flaws in both reasoning and evidence. Claim number one is that human activity is directly worsening global warming. However, the evidence that is given for this, which is industrial farming as a human activity causing global warming, fails to account for the fact that large-scale farming is necessary for today's enormous human population to survive. According to 2012 data from the Department of Agriculture, large farmers are responsible for 80% of the food sales in the US, though they make up fewer than 8% of all farms. What would be more harmful than allowing the world to starve? Even though industrial farming is necessary for the population, large farms understand their influence on the environment and still strive to be responsible in their production. As Jason Lusk from the New York Times said, improvements in agricultural technologies and production practices have significantly lowered the use of energy and water and greenhouse gas emission of food production per unit of output over time. These efforts have had significant effects over the years. According to the Department of Agriculture, between 1982 and 2007, soil erosion on US cropland has actually decreased by 43%. So as you can see, humans can still do good for the environment while maintaining the industries necessary for our survival. The second secondary claim that Kelsey brought up is that scientific research shows that global warming is definitely occurring. The evidence that she gives is that current warming is occurring roughly 10 times faster than the average rate of Ice Age recovery warming. However, this is given without any citation, asking us to accept it without confirmation of a reliable source. Her reasoning also is that global warming, her reasoning for this main claim is that global warming is significantly harming the environment. But in this secondary claim, she actually doesn't do anything to further that point. She only states that global warming is occurring. For example, when she says the NASA quote that the planet's average surface temperature has risen about 2 degrees since the late 19th century, that's true and fair enough, but the audience has no reason to believe that an increase in temperature necessarily means significant trouble for the planet. The speed at which warming occurs does not necessarily reflect out of the ordinary processes. As Jane Belknap, a researcher with the United States Geological Survey, would say, I don't think we've fundamentally changed any process. We've just cranked up the speed. We haven't introduced anything new, we're just changing how fast or slow it happens. With the third claim, she says that global warming is causing noticeable physical changes on Earth. The evidence she gives is that ocean acidification has a negative impact on aquatic life. However, she fails to mention any source for this claim, again, expecting us to accept it on faith. The acidification is attributed to rising carbon dioxide levels, but the Earth and its environments have experienced high levels of carbon dioxide and acidification before, and the Earth has recovered. Evidence exists of events not caused by humanity's interference, such as the Paleocene-Eocene thermal maximum, about 55.8 million years ago, which was a short-lived global warming event during which temperatures increased by 5 to 9 degrees Celsius. So even if these dramatic changes are occurring, that is not unheard of in the history of the world. Such events occurred even before humans walked the Earth. As Katrina Edwards, a geomicrobiologist at USC, would say, humans are having a strong effect on global geochemical cycles, but it does not compare at all to the advent of oxygenic photosynthesis. That was a catastrophic environmental change that occurred before 2.2 billion years ago, which wreaked its full wrath on the Earth system. Cyanobacteria, which is a type of microorganism, triggered sudden climactic shifts similar to what humans are doing now. Recent studies suggest that the proliferation of cyanobacteria 2.3 billion years ago led to a sudden ice age and the creation of a snowball Earth. However, the Earth did recover from that state, and so definitely has the ability to survive any dramatic changes caused by humankind. In conclusion, Kelsey's claim that anthropogenic global warming is causing significant damage to the environment contains faults in evidence and reasoning and fails to account for other possibilities. I'm so sorry.
This ominous wind is pretty good mood. Pretty sounds.
A little Halloweeny, huh?
Yeah, it's really perfect. Weather change just in time.
Okay, you label the advocate's claims pretty clearly. You go right up to the first point, and you've got this challenge about industrial farming. You mitigate the challenge mostly. You're not denying that there's an impact here. I think that that's understandable. You do try to put it in context and suggest that the alternatives to not having this are problematic and significant, which I think human beings are faced with choices like that, and so sometimes we might have to make a choice like that, and you give a reason why we would make the choice that we have made. The argument about environmental improvements through the agricultural process, I think that's a good potential argument to suggest, look, we can mitigate some of these effects in the long run. We've discovered how to mitigate effects in the past, and we've also made changes that have reduced the greenhouse gases. So the idea that this is inevitable is not necessarily correct. I think that's probably the strongest part of the argument on this particular point. I'm not exactly sure how the soil erosion issue applies either to the advocate's claim or to your claim, except that it shows that we do have ways that we can adjust our agriculture to protect the planet, although it doesn't apply to the greenhouse gas issue. On the second point, it's basically an argument about how fast the changes are occurring and whether or not that makes a difference. That's an okay argument. I'm not sure that it's critical. There are probably other arguments that could be made on this issue, whether or not we are accurately measuring the changes, whether or not we can document the relationship of the changes to human activities, and I think probably a more important one is whether or not there's anything that can be done to mitigate those things. I think those would be some claims that you might want to spend a little bit of time on. The argument that you've got is okay. I don't know that it accomplishes what it needs to accomplish there. The one quote that says, all we've done is alter the speed at which we're doing these kinds of things. Well, wouldn't that be potentially impactful and potentially harmful? I'm not, if we were having the response from the advocate, I'm sure that would be the position that they would take on this particular argument. And then on the third point, the acidification issue, there's a question about what causes the acidification and how closely it's related to CO2. You basically argue that we've had this kind of thing happen before. The thing that's, I think, a little bit problematic with the arguments that you've got here is that they all acknowledge that there were significant impacts that were harmful, but that we recovered. I don't know that anybody thinks that the planet's going to die. We'll all die.
Yeah.
The planet's going to be fine. So I think you could say, that there are other arguments to be made here. It's okay. It's a response. I do think you hurt your credibility a little bit when you apologize for making an argument. Don't apologize for making the argument. And if you disagree, that's your business. If you were a defense attorney standing up in front of a jury and saying, I'm sorry for what I'm about to do because my client really is guilty of sin, that would not do you any good at all. So just make the argument. Tell us what the issues are on the other side. Do the best job you can to present them. Let the audience decide. That's what we're trying to learn here is critical thinking. We can make the judgment about whether or not that's a good argument or not. I don't think you need to hurt your credibility in the process. All right, thank you.